Good morning, everybody. We're at the top of the hour and ready to begin. My name is Karen Berger, and I want to welcome you to CASAS National News and Updates webinar. Today is April 20th, and we have a great lineup of presentations for you today. So here are a few reminders about the webinar features. Because of the large numbers here, your phones and computers are muted. If you have questions about the presentation, you need to use the Q&A, and we have a great team ready to answer your questions. I would reserve using the chat just for technical difficulties with using Zoom. And we'd like you to know that the webinar recording and PowerPoint are posted on the website. At the link there, we will also provide a link in the chat for you. So a little closer look at some of the tools that are here available during the webinar. Starting on the right side, our newest feature is the enabling closed captions. So if you click on that little CC and click on show subtitles, you can see closed captions appear below your at the bottom of your screen, and you can also fiddle around with those settings if you'd like to see it appear in a different way. The next green bubble is about that Q&A, which I already mentioned. We'd like you to ask your questions about webinar content and presentations in that Q&A, and our team will answer you. We'd like to keep the chat reserved just for technical difficulties, and we will post some links in there as well. And on the very left, you'll see a little microphone with an arrow where you can check your audio settings if you need to make some adjustments there, or maybe even change from computer to phone audio. On the next slide, you'll see a little closer look of what the Q&A looks like if you haven't used that before. So there's two little tabs at the top, and one is where you can click on and see just your own questions and answers. And if you click on the one that's on the left, you can see all questions and answers. So that's where, again, you'll post your questions if you have questions for any of our speakers or general information about the webinar content. And also, we'd like to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on the CASAS website for you to view at a later time. So we'll put those links in the chat again, and I'll hand it over to Linda.
Hi, everyone. So glad you could be here today. We have an exciting lineup. We're going to make an announcement about remote testing and give you an update on our test development, then move into an update on our field testing and research studies. I'm sure you're interested in hearing about the Summer Institute. Then we'll be moving into our segment on CASAS eTests and TOPSpro with first some tips and tricks, and then a really interesting, promising practice presentation about post-testing, then ending up with CASAS news. So glad you could come again, and here we go. So let's start with remote testing. We imagine that you've reduced the amount of remote testing you've been doing, but some of you have continued to do it if you're still using it for your distance learning, or if at times you're maybe again not having classes in person. And we had been for the last year piloting the idea of expanding the maximum number of students that we would allow for you to test at one time with remote testing. And as you may know, it has been a limit of 5 students, but we are happy to announce today that we have updated the policy after trying it out and seeing that it works. I'm going to tell you some of the caveats for that, the guidelines for it, but under certain conditions, we are allowing you to test up to 15 students at a time, starting right now. So these are important, though, to understand as far as what the rules are. First of all, if you want to do this, it can only be done in approach 2 or 3. These are our CASAS remote testing approaches. You'll see them described on the website. They each have their own set of guidelines. And in approach 2 is where the student has a Windows PC. In approach 3 is where the student has a Chromebook with kiosk mode, which is a security feature, or an iPad with another, with that respective security feature, which is called secure guided access. So those are the only three conditions in which you can do this remote testing of more than one student at a time. The other ones, if you do remote control, it has to be only one-on-one because the student's computer is not locked down. So that can only be one-on-one, one proctor, one student at a time. Also with the approach 4, it can only be one-on-one. But with these two, you can venture into more than one at a time. Then the other guideline is about the experience of the proctors. So if a proctor is new or has had limited experience with eTests or remote testing, then the limit of 5 students still applies for remote testing. So, and again, let me repeat, any new proctors to eTests, or if they have limited experience new to remote testing, they still are limited to 5 students at a time. However, when it is possible to go to 15 at a time, and really it's quite a lot. I mean, you can certainly go up, you know, in smaller increments. You could do 7 or 8 at a time or 10. We're not saying to do 15 at a time, but we're just saying if that's possible. But it's only for proctors who are experienced in remote testing. And this is very important, that they are comfortable doing this. So even if a proctor has been doing remote testing, but doesn't feel comfortable going beyond 5 at a time, we would ask the program administration to please respect that and not impose that any proctor who's not comfortable testing more than 5 or however many at a time be asked to do that. So these are really the two conditions, is the experience in remote testing and the comfort with remote testing to test more. So in terms of the experience, we're defining that as at least 3 months using remote testing with approach 2 or 3 with up to 5 students, and at least 30 or more completed assessments in at least 10 different testing sessions. So this is how we're more specifically describing what we consider to be experienced. I mean, at your local agency, you could make it a higher level of experience if you think that's appropriate, but we wouldn't want you to go below this because we feel that this is the minimum that a proctor would need in order to be comfortable doing up to 15 at a time. So I don't know if you have any questions about this. If you do, you can put them in the Q&A. We have already updated the guidelines for approach 2 and 3 on the website. They have a new version number. So if you're planning to do the up to 15 at a time, those guidelines I just went over are now in the latest version of the remote testing guidelines for these two approaches. And there was one FAQ that addressed the question of 15 or how many of the limit. So if there are any questions, please let us know. If not, let's go on to, and you can, if something occurs to you later in the session, that's fine, just put it in the Q&A. Just to give you a quick update, nothing has changed yet, but for now, the current status of our NRS approved tests and what's coming up next is this. For ABE, we have our reading goals series that is approved through 2025. We have our math goals through 2023. And we have for our new math goals, it's called Math Goals 2 series, we are in the midst of the final form studies, and that's what Karen's going to tell you about in just a minute. That's where we urgently need your help. For ESL, you've been using life and work reading as well as the forms 27, 28, and if you are permitted to, also the reading for language arts, these 2 reading forms. These are approved like all the other tests that are out there that are NRS approved through next February and probably continued on through next June, though it hasn't yet been formally announced by Octave, but that's expected. And for listening, it's our 980 series with the same time frame. We are very excited. We have 2 new ESL series, one for reading, one for listening. We have a new name for them, which is called STEPS, Reading Steps and Listening Steps. And we are currently in the process of those final form studies. And Karen's going to give you a rundown of exactly what we need to finish those off. So this is really to help you get the understanding that in order for us to get NRS approval, we really need your help with the math, the ESL reading, and the ESL listening, because without that student level data, we cannot submit. And so this is the moment in time. We know that it's been challenging during the pandemic to help us with these studies, but we really hope that at this point, you could go that extra mile and help us to cross the finish line with these, with the numbers of students we need to complete these studies for these series. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to Karen. She's going to talk to you about the research studies.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to show you our little promo video about field testing, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more. So thanks again for joining us today. Some of you may not know what field testing is. A lot of you probably do. And many of you, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you again for your continued support. Some of you are new to field testing. Some of you have just gotten involved and or just expressing interest, but we just couldn't do it without you. And we really appreciate your help. For those of you who aren't aware of what field testing actually is, it's basically your students are taking our not yet approved tests, and we use the information that we gather from those field tests and the demographic information to make sure these tests are validated and use those in our reports to submit for approval. So it's a vital part of our research process, and it's really where the rubber meets the road for us, because without your learners and your participation and input, we couldn't get it done. Everybody benefits. The students benefit. They get with their confidence in test taking. Agencies can benefit with complimentary WTUs. Students get gift cards. So it's really a win-win for everyone, and it makes sure that your students are represented in these new tests. So on the next slide, we're talking about our most urgent need is for math, because we are only just begin to scrape the barrel as far as what we need. We need thousands of learners, and thank you again. Some of you have signed up. We only have till June, the end of June, to get this data collected, and we need about 4,000 learners. So it's become quite urgent, and we need to submit in the fall to get these tests approved to replace our current goal series. We've expanded it to 5 levels. We need ABE and ASC learners. Anybody in your program who's in adult basic ed, and we can also use ESL students at NRS levels 4, 5, and 6 in reading. I know on the video it said we need low levels, but we need all levels. It can be delivered via eTests or via paper, pencil, and the students would take a locator or an appraisal and 1 or 2 tests. So we've really upped the ante. Students get $20 per test in this, where in the past we usually offer $5 per test. And so we really hope you can get on board with this. On the next slide, I'll talk about some of our other studies. Thank you again. We really made some great gains with our ESL testing, but we still have some more to do. We still need some paper testers, and we also have some learning gains and other special studies. So in the learning gains studies, the students take a pre and a post test with some instruction in between. We need this for our ESL studies and for math. And that can be done with paper and pencil or on eTests. And then overall, we need paper pencil field testing for math and then for the listening. So we really want to work with individuals to help you explore ways for you can get involved in the field testing. And this might include CASAS paying proctors for their time or other incentives for your agency. So we really want, don't shy away, check in with us and see how we can help you get this done. On the next slide, we talk about some of the frequently asked questions. The tests are not for reporting purposes. They will not affect your regular program testings, and they will not show up on your reports. Even if your student is not in a math class, if they meet the criteria and they're part of your adult ed program, maybe they're in a CTE program, but they're not currently studying math, they would still be eligible. And like I said, ESL students with an NRS reading level of 4 or above are eligible to participate. Some other frequently asked questions are about how do you access them? And we put a specially configured testing session right in your eTests account. It won't cost you anything. And if it's paper testing, we'll mail them to you with prepaid return labels. And of course, the gift card question, everybody wants to know how that works. So we usually issue Target or Walmart gift cards, and we mail them directly to your agency, and you distribute them to your students. So if you think you might want to get involved, communicate with your staff, create a plan, and be sure to contact us for support along the way. We have so many programs that have been very creative in the way they've made this work, and we are really learning from their expertise in ways that we can advise you on how you can make it work for your program. You can see more about field testing on our field testing opportunities page. It's click on field testing opportunities on the homepage. And if you would like to talk to us, you can email fieldtesting@casas.org, Elizabeth Scheib, and I will respond to you, or you can call me directly. Thanks so much. Hope to hear from you.
All right, thanks, Karen. We're going to now move into our Summer Institute update. It will be from June 13th to 16th. We're back at the Town and Country in San Diego. It's going to be hybrid, in person and virtual. So here is the beautiful Town and Country. It's been renovated. So it's really a lovely venue, and we're so excited to be back in San Diego and ready to host you. If you will be joining us in person, we do have the requirement that you have to provide full proof of vaccination, and that would happen during the registration process. We have a third-party crowd pass that is well known and would be doing that work for us to document your vaccination. So that's how that will work. We are again using the Whova platform. We used it last year, it worked well. And so that's going to be the same way that we're going to be working virtually. The agenda is now available. You can go to the Summer Institute tab on the website, and that's where you can also find it, and it will be a hyperlink in here. It's not complete, but we wanted to share what we do have so far. And just to let you know, it could possibly change, but we have made it available in the draft state that it's in right now. And here is an idea of some of the content of the Summer Institute if you haven't been before. We do offer our implementation trainings. We have CASAS hands-on tech labs, and that can be really beneficial to really get a sense of how the technology, both eTests and TOPSpro Enterprise work in a lab, computer lab setting. We have sessions just about TE and CASAS eTests, and also on some of our other programs like the NEDP, WSCS. And then if you haven't been before, our Summer Institute is a little bit like COABE in many ways, that we do have sessions on hot topics in adult ed, policy, instruction, and curriculum. We usually have the folks from USCIS there doing a whole strand on citizenship, and there's often a lot of BL civics as well. So please join us for a wide variety of adult ABE, ASE, and ESL topics. The registration fees are as follows. We do offer meals and the nice venue in San Diego, and then our virtual registration is here, and there is a lab fee if you're taking any of the labs, but you don't have to. Also, so here it is in summary, and it's you can register now. So please join us. We really, really hope you can make it. It'll be so great to see everybody again in person. And if you can only participate virtually, that's been another really great thing that's happened in the last couple years, is that people from states where they didn't have travel money but had never been to the Summer Institute have been able to join virtually. So please consider that option as well. So now we're going to do a poll. I'm going to ask Karen to introduce you to the logistics.
Hi, so this is what a poll looks like in a webinar, and it'll come up on your screen, and you just click on your screen to answer the poll. And then you will also at the bottom, if you click Linda, at the bottom, you'll see you'll submit the poll down there. And then once we stop the poll and share the results, then you'll be able to close the polling window on your screen so you can go back to the main screen. So we're going to ask you to answer a poll about how well your program is doing in getting paired student pre and post test scores. So once you answer the poll, you can submit your answers, and I am going to launch the poll now.
All right, I see the answers coming in. Well, it's nice to see some of you are quite confident in how you're doing. That's great. And about 2/3 of you feel you could improve in some way. Some feel they need more improvement than others, and there's some of you out there that don't do pre and post testing. So, all right, very interesting. Thank you so much for your answers. And now we're going to get, that is our topic coming up now. So we're going to now show you, it's a recorded presentation from Martha Perez from our CASAS tech support team, and she's also a trainer. And she's going to share with you some tips about doing what you can do in eTests and TOPSpro for post-testing.
Using pre and post test sessions effectively for achieving better pre-post test results. CASAS provides a standardized set of testing sessions. Let's take a look at the sessions in the Rolling Hills simulation server and its configuration settings. We will log in as a coordinator into the Rolling Hills. Intake pretest sessions are designed for new students and aligned with the new CASAS intake process. New student records are added at the time of testing. with a unique student ID. It has different modalities according to the template name or program. For example, ABE ASC sessions have reading and math goals modalities. Under options, it hides the practice tests. So it only focuses on the real assessment. Don't worry, your students will still get 2 practice questions at the beginning of the assessment. The registration tab, the option log creation of new students is unchecked on the intake pre-test session. Let's go ahead and go back to your list of testing sessions so we can review the progress post-test. Progress post-test session is designed to administer the next appropriate level test based on the student's most recent tests recorded in the online system. Students must enter a pre-existing unique ID before they may proceed with testing. This session prevents duplicate student records thanks to the log creation of new students option in the registration tab. Let's see what happens when the student is taking a post-test and has a typo in the ID. Let's go ahead and type the student's ID with a typo, and the student is not recognized. Therefore, the student is not allowed to join the session and must alert the proctor, who can look up the correct student ID in the system. Once your student finishes the test, you can look up your test results in eTests and in TOPSpro. On eTests, you can click on Test Results from the left panel on your screen. There is a filter embedded by default to only show assessments for that day. You may also click on the date to show a filter with a calendar and select the date that you wish to filter for. Another way to look at the test results on eTests, you can go back to testing sessions and click on the tests button with the number of tests in parentheses. This will show you the tests given using that test session. Let's see how you can review this information in TOPSpro. Log in to TOPSpro Enterprise, go to Records, Tests. This is what we call a tests lister. In addition, you can review pre and post-test information by generating the NRS Data Integrity Report, which you can find under Reports, Data Management, NRS Data Integrity. And remember, this is only for enhanced access agencies. This report is exclusive for agencies with TE enhanced access. Once report is generated, View the items 08 and 09 to find students who have no valid pretest or valid pretest with no post-test. Hover your mouse over the cell to highlight. You can left click on it to drill down to the names of those students in the item. You can alphabetize this lister by clicking on the sorting buttons and review all the names. Back to the report, I will click on that orange bar, and you can also right-click to drill down on other options. For example, we will drill down to NRS Monitor, which gives you additional information regarding pre and post-test activity. For more information on pre and post-test results, please visit our website, CASAS.org, and click on online training for more training, help documentation, and videos.
So thanks to Martha for doing that, and hope it was helpful to all of you. If you have questions about this, please do enter them in the Q&A, and we have tech support staff now who can help you with any questions you have. So now we're going to move on to, still on this topic of post-testing. We're in a minute going to have a presentation from Sean McAtee from Kirkwood Community College in Iowa. But before that, we're going to preface that a little bit with some information that some of you may need to understand. First of all, we do have two levels of access to TOPSpro Enterprise. The first one we call Basic, and that's where you will get individual student level reports, the individual student skills profile, which is probably our meatiest and most popular report, and the individual student competency report, also very popular. Of course, the personal score report that appears at the end of every test on eTests if you want it to. The test history you do get with Basic, and that has a lot of information in it. The next assigned test you can get as a report, and also it happens automatically in the background to determine the next appropriate test for your student when the student logs in. You can know the number of test administrations you've given, and you can export data to a third-party data system. So this last point, I just wanted to emphasize a little bit, because what you're going to hear Sean talk about will be relevant there, because if we know a lot of you use other, you have your own local data management system. CASAS also has one within TOPSpro Enterprise, and in the state of Iowa, they do use that. But when you hear Sean talking in his presentation, which is recorded initially, and then afterwards he's going to be available for questions, you can, in your mind, be thinking, well, okay, even though I may not enter a lot of data into TOPSpro, you can still export it and be able to do some of the things that he's telling you about. If you already have enhanced TOPSpro, which is already the case in California, Oregon, and Iowa, but of course, local agencies around the country have decided to use the enhanced version. You do get a lot more features, and one of them is you'll be able to generate class reports. You're able to do some additional kinds of monitoring and work with the data at the different levels of the data reports, track students. There's a lot of special programs, or there's a special programs feature, I should say. This one is, excuse me, especially relevant because we do have an ability to record instructional hours. There's a couple ways to do that, and we had a previous webinar that really focused a lot on that with our Classmate app. You can do it also manually into TE and other ways, but you can also import it. But basically, if you, it's something that you can have right in TE. Also, the drill down reports that Martha just shared, and all these things can help you to improve your post-testing pre-post shared results percentages by using these tools. And finally, the last one, you may not be aware that in TOPSpro Enterprise, we have something called NRS Fed table reports that can help you gauge how it's going with your accountability targets. And not that necessarily you would report them out of TOPSpro Enterprise. You might have another way to do that in your program, although you can if you use TOPSpro for this. But it's these are reports that we think you might find helpful in any case. So just to let you, another preview for Sean's session is that these NRS tables monitor reports are under reports, and then federal reports, and then NRS tables monitor. So that's how you can explore that on your own time after the webinar. All right, so now I'm going to just introduce that Sean will be giving this pre-recorded presentation. Afterwards, again, he'll be available for questions if you have them. We're going to get situated in Iowa at the beginning, and he's going to tell us a little bit about Kirkwood Community College and Iowa, and then get into his session. So let's hear from Sean.
Hello, my name is Sean McAtee. I'm a coordinator at Kirkwood Community College in Cedar Rapids. Today I want to talk about the process that we go through for post-testing our students. Kirkwood is a college that serves 7 counties in eastern Iowa. We serve the city of Cedar Rapids, which has about 135,000 citizens. Population of Iowa City is about 74,000, and we serve a host of rural communities as well. There is a map where Cedar Rapids and Iowa City are located right in the center of the country. One bit of trivia about Cedar Rapids is that if you've ever had a bowl of Captain Crunch cereal, the odds are pretty good that that cereal was produced here in Cedar Rapids at Quaker Oats, which is on the banks of the Cedar River. Quaker Oats is one of the largest cereal mills in the world. Some other things Cedar Rapids is known for, other than Quaker Oats, which produces cereal. We also have a very large factory, General Mills, also produces cereal. Collins Aerospace is a large defense contractor located in Cedar Rapids. We also have Cargill, which is a corn syrup manufacturing company. And finally, we have ADM, which produces ethanol, which is also made from corn. So if you know anything about Cedar Rapids after this presentation today, you will know that it makes a lot of stuff that comes from corn. Now let's talk about how the ABE program in Iowa might be different or similar to your state. In Iowa, we have ABE that has a managed enrollment system. So all of our students at Kirkwood are required to attend classes. They attend classes for 7 weeks. Students enrolled in the HiSET program have to take practice tests. They have to pass practice HiSET tests. And this is important regarding post-testing for CASAS, because if the students want to take the official HiSET test, they have to pass those practice tests. And before they can pass practice tests, they are required to complete a CASAS post-test. So that does have an effect on our ability to get students to take their CASAS post-tests. Our process is that monthly, the tables monitor report is pulled from TE. The person who does that prepares a spreadsheet that has been filtered by the number of hours a student has, which site that student is learning at, the program that they are in, and whether or not they've already completed a level. The table monitor report is then sent to each program coordinator. Using the tables monitor report. When you pull the tables monitor report, it's going to look something like this. It will have the program that the student is in, of course, their name. We'll have their hours that the student has completed, and this tables monitor report has already been filtered for students who have at least 40 hours or more. So the process would look something like that once we have that tables monitor report created. It's a little different based on the program. For ESL, class instructors are provided a list with the students that need a post-test. The instructors then informs the student and schedules the student to take their post-test. And we use an web-based app called Calendly that we will schedule the students on. For our ABE students, so students not in ESL, the process is a little bit different. The coordinator generates a contact list for students based on the tables monitor report. The tables monitor report is then divided amongst staff, and we usually do that just by alphabetical order. Students are sent a blind carbon copied email offering to schedule the post-test, and as well as classroom instructors will also schedule those students who are attending class. After a few days, the students that did not respond and get scheduled via email are then called. And the students that don't respond to a phone call, they haven't responded to an email, we will probably also go and text them as well. And all of those students are scheduled again on Calendly. So this is again what the tables monitor report would look like if we pull it once a month. Remember, the tables monitor report is an excellent tool for this because you can identify students that have not yet achieved a educational level gain. And you can see that in column Q on this tables monitor report. We will filter the tables monitor report by site, and I'm going to pull up an example of that. So this is what a tables monitor report would look like once it's been filtered. So you can see that I'm able to pull up the students by their site and by their program. So if I'm working with students in basic skills, I'll have a list of students that need a post-test. If I'm working with ESL students, I'll have the ability to pull up those students as well. Now, once I have this table monitor report listed by my site, I, as a site coordinator, am going to then use that report and a contact list that I've pulled from TE to identify the students telephone number, their email address, so that I can then contact those students. And you can see I pulled this contact list using the columns feature in TE, and it allowed me to filter for just the students that I want to test. So I have a large Excel spreadsheet with every single student's name and email address, and telephone number. And what I'm able to do is quickly filter for just the students that I want to be able to contact based on that tables monitor report. Once the students are contacted, they're scheduled on Calendly. We use this web-based app, Calendly. You could use a different kind of scheduling program, but we have been using Calendly for about 2 years, and we've been pretty happy with it. The reason why we use it is that the student is emailed and texted a confirmation of the date and that the date that they are testing on, the time that they are testing, and exactly what it is that they're doing. Students are sent a reminder 24 hours ahead of time. They're given an email and a text reminder. We are able to mark exactly which test they are taking and any other important instructions. From that web app, we're also able to reschedule students, and we can also mark the no-shows in order to quickly follow up with those students to get them rescheduled. This is what the Calendly app looks like from the point of scheduling a student. You can see that we have created a Kirkwood K-Life learning site place on the app that allows us to schedule at specific times. And you can see that we have each time is equated with a certain number of spots that we're able to fill. This is what it looks like when we go into an actual, we schedule the student. You can see it's going to ask for their name, their email. Then we can able to mark exactly which kinds of tests they're taking. And then you're also going to see a place for their cell phone number so that we can text them. Now, this type of app has been really important in our learning center, where we have lots of different students coming in for lots of different things. And you'll see on this screen that it tells us how many students are coming in at any day and at a specific time. And then you can see, this is an example of when I pull up one of the students in Calendly, one of the seats that is going to be used for testing, I can see exactly what that student is going to be doing. So I know this has been a very brief PowerPoint presentation. Maybe it's given you some ideas of how you could use TE reports to make post-testing as efficient as possible, so your staff can spend more time with students and less time trying to hunt for information in TE by each student. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Sean. And now we would like to ask you to come on camera. And if people would like to, if there are any questions, I did see one so far in the chat about whether Calendly is free. That's maybe the first question you can answer.
Calendly is free to a certain extent, but the way we use it, we are paying an annual subscription fee because we found it to be so useful.
I see. So you get additional features if you pay for it. I suppose that's true for a lot of these kinds of apps, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, I have a question for you. Can you tell, are there any efficiencies that you've found to your post-testing process by using the techniques and strategies you just shared?
Yes, I think the way we've been doing it for the last couple of years was a big change, because when we had students that we need to post-test in the past, we were using that tables monitor report, but kind of looking at them individually, looking up their records. We were going in individually to each student's record and pulling their email address or their phone number. But with being able to export documents or export the data out of TE onto Excel, we're able to sort and filter really quickly to get to the data that we want.
Mm-hmm. I see. Great. So that's a time saver.
A big time saver.
All right. And another thing I was curious about is that you have the students enter their demographics into TE. Is that something I know, sometimes when that's suggested, people think, oh, they'll make too many mistakes. It's easier for us to do it ourselves. But can you tell us your take on that? Why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, so this was a big change for our program just a couple of years ago, where we would have the students fill out a paper registration card, and then we had staff who would then input the data from that card into to TE. But what we started to do was to just have the students enter it directly in to eTests when they go to test. And we were afraid that at the beginning, we were afraid, well, we would have all this bad data because this, we would have to go in and backwards and make fixes to what the students entered. But we actually found out that most of the mistakes were coming from us on the staff side instead. So we've had very few times where we have to go in and fix things. The students know their email address. You don't have to read it try to translate it from a page if they have sloppy handwriting, then put it into the certain databases. It's already there.
Well, that's really interesting. I can see how if a admin staff is not careful or just can't read it, that's really could be an easy way to make mistakes. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't see any more questions for you, but is there anything else you'd like to add about what doing these, taking these steps is how it's helped you to improve your paired scores?
I think it has, but it's also helped us to just have more time to spend with students. So instead of spending time on some little tasks that can kind of be automated, we're able to spend more time with students. And that's what we're all here for.
Absolutely. That's so true. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this and sharing your
welcome.
program's best practices. I'm sure people got a lot out of it, and we'll look into doing some of these things too. And just so everyone knows, this webinar is recorded, and if you want to watch again the presentation, it'll be there, and we have the timestamp so you can go right to it. So, all right. Thank you so much, Sean. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's get into some CASAS news. We do have live training coming up on the 28th of April next week, a TOPSpro Enterprise overview. And you can sign up for all of these on the What's New, under the What's New live facilitated training registration. Please do sign up because they do fill up. And then for implementation training, we have M4, which is the instructional implementation all about reports. And we're doing that one on the 27th of April. So this is, I think you all know that you can take these modules asynchronously, that is on your own. They're Moodle courses and you can do them at your own pace online. But if either instead of that or in addition to that, you prefer to do them in a live facilitated way on Zoom with one of our trainers, then that's another way to get certified. So just in case you haven't tried it before, please take advantage of that opportunity. We've been having national TE network meetings, which is an opportunity for programs using CASAS to share with each other about best practices, ask questions. There's CASAS staff as well as experienced practitioners there. And so any question is welcome. And the next one of those is on Friday, the 13th of May. And so again, pretty soon you'll be able to register for that and attend. So that I think that would be very useful, even if you're getting into TE or if you've been using it for a long time. A lot of valuable input to share and ideas. As Martha had mentioned in her recording, there is a place now on the CASAS website called Help Documentation and Videos, where we've pulled together all of the various resources that we have with our tips. And some of them are short videos, some of them are PDFs and other kinds of ways to either learn about CASAS if you're new or learn new things that you want to go deeper into. So this is highly recommended to explore that. You can search on a number of different number of different ways to find, and if you can't find it, just send us an email. We'll help you find it. We continue to have our office hours with CASAS staff, not every Friday, but on the following upcoming Fridays. And that's another opportunity for you to get any question answered. We have a whole array of CASAS staff there, whether it's tech support or training or on any topic. So your questions are the ones that drive the session. It's nice if when you register, you can give us a little bit of an idea if you know what you want to ask about. That helps us to be prepared. But if you want to come and spontaneously ask anything, we're game for that too. So please join us for office hours. And again, you can find that on the CASAS website. It's on the far right, this What's New list of opportunities here, and this is the one for office hours. Here, if you missed it before, this is where you can sign up for field testing. And down below right here is where you can learn about the previous webinars where we have all the recordings, including today's will be posted possibly this afternoon, if not latest tomorrow. And if you missed any, or if you want to have someone on your staff who couldn't attend, watch it. Our next, we have to probably rename these because this time we're going to have a bit of a gap. The next National News and Updates webinar is not going to be until August, and we are generally going to have them more or less every other month. But because here we are in April, our Summer Institute is in June, and that's a chance for everyone to get caught up with what's new. And then we usually take a break in July anyway. So the next one will be in August. After that, we'll have one, probably 2 more during the year, and we'll announce those dates soon. But so please mark your calendar for the 24th of August when we think everybody's getting back and wanting to know if there's anything they need to know. So you'll be able to register for that. It's probably already there in the news and updates section of the website. So here, if you're not familiar already, are the ways that you can email us on different topics so that it goes straight to the department that your question relates to. We really hope you'll use these. It's the most efficient way to get a question answered. We do monitor it all day long and have teams ready to answer at these email IDs. So that brings us to the top of the hour. Thank you so much for attending, and hope it was helpful for you. We look forward to hopefully seeing you either online or in person at the Summer Institute. And if not, have a great rest of the year. We also hope to be in touch with you for field testing if you haven't offered to do that yet. And thank you all again so much. Those of you who have already come forth to do the field testing, we appreciate it from the bottom of our heart. So have Have a great rest of your day. And this will formally end the webinar. If you have more questions, we'll stay on and answer those questions for as long as that takes. Thanks and bye-bye.